Today is the day where we must stand strong against both SOPA and PIPA in hopes that they will go down in history as a couple of bills that are completely unconstitutional. We must stand strong. Yes, today is the day of the big internet blackout is where I'm getting at, but I'm not here to talk about internet blackouts. I'm here to talk about some really fun times with Golden Sun. Yes, hey everybody, it's RRPG here, and welcome back to another episode of RRPG Let's Play with Golden Sun on the Game Boy Advance. In today's episode, we are going through the Lamakan Desert, finally. And as you can tell from what we are seeing right now, it is a very hot and scorching desert, and one that should not be taken very lightly. So yes, we're going to be going through the Lamakan Desert today fully, and we will be getting another genie in the process. So yeah, lots to be had in this episode today. So anyway, let's go ahead and get on with this episode that's already in progress, shall we? And since we're here at the Lamakan Desert, the thing that we want to do is we want to find the oases, or, you know, we need to find an oasis within the various stones that encircle around the sand to make sure if they are there or they are just an illusion. So, yeah, how's everybody doing today? Hope you all are doing just fine, and I'm pretty sure that the internet blackout has kind of really bugged a lot of people, but, you know, it's actually in protest of the current with the Stop Online Piracy Act and Protect Internet Property Act, or the Protect IP Act, in short. So yeah, that's what the whole deal is with many websites like this, and like Facebook and Wikipedia. They're all protesting against those bills to make sure that they don't even pass, because, you know, in their current form, they do not combat internet piracy whatsoever, as they would necessarily mean that the entire internet would be censored altogether. So yeah, I mean, I'm all for stopping internet piracy, but in those bills' current forms, I do not support them whatsoever. You know, I do not support the fact that it would entirely censor the internet altogether, because literally freedom of speech would be annulled, and, you know, it would completely take away from the First Amendment rights. And I'm pretty sure this is one of those things where a lot of people would, you know, be in lots of rage to, you know, want to counter back against bills like these if they were to pass. But thank goodness there are lots of people that don't support it, and I know a lot of game companies, they have taken off their support of the Stop Online Piracy Act. But as for the Protect IP Act, it's still about to be presented in the Senate. But, you know, it's time for us to make our stand, guys. So if you experience some things where it says fight for the future or whatever, then you need to go to those websites and put in your information and write to Congress. Basically, it's an automatic thing, and you will send letters to them to let them know about the state of those bills, about how really bad they are. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about politics. I'm here to talk about Golden Sun. And yeah, as I said before, Lamakan Desert is a fiery hell. And as we look around the place for these circular stone patterns, we should be able to find an oasis or an item within the sand that is actually there, because, you know, the whole thing about mirages where you actually see things, but, you know, that are far away, but you can't see them when they're close up. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. So that's what we got from Master Hammer in the previous episode, and I know I should have been paying attention to that, but, you know, with that whole thing about where I feel the difference between Let's Plays and just plain commentaries are going, I just had to get that off my chest, and I'm pretty sure most of you already knew what was going on by then, so I didn't think I need to put in my full 2 cents about what was going on in the episode, because it was pretty much self-explanatory if you were just paying attention to what was going on in the cutscenes. I mean, like I said, with commentaries, you could talk about whatever you want. I mean, information like how to become really big on YouTube, or how to, you know, how to get a bigger subscriber count, or how to make sure that your commentaries are really perfect. Well, in this with Let's Plays, like I said, they are nothing like that, as you have to be focused on talking about what is going on in the game at all times, so that way, if there's information that you can, you know, talk about within certain battles, or when grabbing gene or anything like that, then that's when you need to, you know, be fully focused with these things. Okay, sometimes when we when we use reveal on the circular stone patterns, most of the time, there will be some quicksand with an antlion stuck in the middle to attack at you. And yes, this acts as a regular battle, so if you do see these guys, then it's okay to fight them if you want, but they will respawn once you come back to them. Once you come back to this place, or if you use reveal again, and they will show up out of nowhere, and then you have to fight them all over again. So, yeah, if you want to gain some extra experience, you can, but for the most part, they're just there for random encounters, for the most, as I said, for the most part. And as you keep going through the Lamakan Desert, your characters, the characters in your party, they will constantly complain about the heat, the dry, arid heat of this desert being extremely hot, and there is no way for them to get some water or anything like that, because with the extreme heat of the desert means that their energy is being sapped completely. Now, don't worry if the heat gauge goes up all the way to the top. You won't actually die in the process. You'll actually just lose about a good chunk of hit points. I say at least like 20, 25, or 30% of your hit points at best, but mostly 25%. But yeah, you want to be careful when you're going through this place, so that way you don't even, end up losing a lot of hit points in the process. But yeah, we're not going to die in this desert whatsoever, as it's, going through a desert like this is pretty much child's play, in my opinion. If you're at a good level with your characters at this point, then it's pretty much child's play when you're trying to travel through this desert. And, with Garrett being a fire adept, I really don't know why he's complaining a whole lot about the desert when he actually should feel fine against it, since he is from the Mars clan, or whatever. And as you can tell from the left of that antlion, when we used reveal, there was actually a wind genie right there, but all of a sudden I seem to have forgotten about it, so we will come back to it as soon as we can, but for right now, let's just continue where we are. And if I do forget about it, by the time we get to the end of this place, the Lamakan Desert, then I will go back and search for it, or go back and grab it. Which is most likely the case. There is a boss here at the Lamakan Desert, but I'll be explaining it more once we get to it. Salamander. It kind of reminds, and since since the salamander is here in the desert, you can pretty much think of it as a fire-type weapon, and, not a fire-type weapon, but a fire-type enemy, but it totally reminds me of that one game in the US version of Whose Line Is It Anyway, called Superheroes, where Greg had to pretend, or was playing, Greg Proops was playing the role of imaginary friend boy, because that's the whole gig with superheroes, is that the starting superhero will always have a superhero name that they go by before they get started with the actual action of the scene. And every time when there's a crisis comes up, when a crisis comes up, he always has an epiphany, and he says something completely random like, "Great leaping salamanders aflame!" And that's where I'm getting the reference from, because, with the salamander here at the Lamakan Desert, it's pretty much a fire type of enemy, that can stand the heat, so, yeah, I just had to make that reference. And yes, I do believe that Whose Line Is It Anyway in the US was a really great show, and I feel that's one of those shows that I believe it's one of those shows that needs to make a really big comeback. Whether some people say it shouldn't or not, I definitely think it needs to come back one of these days, with Drew Carey coming back as the host, and all the other characters, or all the other contestants who participated in the show, they need to reprise their roles as well. And there's no reveal right here, sadly. But I really thought that the one TV show that came out recently that's supposed to be the spiritual successor to Whose Line, called Drew Carey's Improvaganza, I thought that was actually a pretty good show, even though it was kind of short for the amount of games that they had, but it was a pretty good successor. But it is kind of sad that there was only a 40-episode run on the Game Show Network. But the good thing is that Drew Carey, the host, actually owns full rights to the show, so that means it could actually be picked up by another company like Comedy Central, or maybe even CBS, or somebody that will gladly air, Drew Carey's Improvaganza with the first season, and possibly even have a second season to appear. Sure, with Comedy Central, there's that It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia playing, and that's become a really big success, and you know, I think there was a lot of potential with Drew Carey's Improvaganza. So, yeah. Maybe there is some hope. Maybe there's not. But we'll have to see later on in the future. So, yeah, I'm one of those people like Proton John from YouTube who likes to watch Whose Line Is It Anyway. And I still get a really big kick out of watching the videos on YouTube every once in a while. They're always fun to watch, especially if you see some episodes or you see an episode that has Richard Simmons in as a special guest. Oh my gosh, and for some of those games that are in that show, then you already know what I'm talking about. Especially with that one with Living Scenery, where he started acting really, really obnoxious, you know, playing as, you know, one of the props, or playing as the various props like Wayne Brady does, but, you know, it's just, it's just one of those episodes that makes you say, oh my god. But there's two good things about that show. Ryan Stiles and Colin Mockery. The funniest Canadian that I have ever known. Well, you know, from television, that is, but I don't know any famous celebrities, like, on YouTube. Like the only one that I know off of YouTube, but I don't know personally, but I know that, you know, with watching his stuff, is Proton John SA. I don't know what the SA stands for Proton John SA. I used to think it's Screw Attack, but I guess there's a different meaning, because, you know, SA is sometimes the abbreviation for Screw Attack. But I don't really associate myself with ScrewAttack.com that much anymore, since I feel that they've kind of, you know, took a different turn from where they were originally. It's like they're more focused on money, rather than having the community, which are known as the G1s, to have, you know, have a total presence to the site to where they can actually, you know, make something big for themselves. I feel that with the new website update that came back, I think sometime last year, that the creativity became completely blank. And lots of people started to leave the site, and I was one of those people, and that's how you got to see me create the 40S Audio Podcast. On here, and on Got Game. And right now, I'm seem to having a really tough time trying to find, what do you call it? The Jupiter Gene. Or the Jupiter Genie. But if I can't find it here, then we'll probably go ahead and make our way westward some more, which I assume that's going to be the case. Yeah, I do end up spending some time trying to find the Jupiter Genie, since, you know, it is here in the section. But since it's here in the section, sometimes the placement of this section is really awkward, you know, to determine where everything is. And the longer you stay in the desert, the more your energy is going to be sapped. Oh boy. I really cannot stand this desert one bit. I can't remember where there was a game where a desert was really this bad and it just made you go crazy because, you know, how ridiculous it is to lose your hit points and such. Yeah, I don't remember which. Probably the only thing that I could think of is Final Fantasy X when you're at the, what's the name of that desert? That desert that you end up in after you and your party get separated from Yuna. Anyway. So, yeah, we just made it to the next section of the Lamakan Desert, and we should be getting closer to where the boss is. Now, every time when you step on plateaus like those, they are not sand, so that way you can save yourself from, you know, from your feet getting burned by the intense heat. And every time when you go inside caves like this, your feet won't get burned either. But that doesn't mean that the heat gauge will go back down. Once you come back down, it will still be up at the same spot as to where you were from before. Yeah, that's one of the things I don't like about this desert, is when you go inside some caves that the heat gauge does not go back down. It sucks, I know. Okay, so we use reveal right here. There's a boss. We need to approach it. And fight it. Yep, this is the next boss in the game. It is known as Manticore. And as you can tell, it is mostly a fire-type enemy, but it does have some earth power to it. So for the most part, he is pretty much weak against water, so Mia is the perfect candidate to do a lot of damage to this one particular boss, so make sure you use her Genie and her Mercury-based synergy spells on this foe, so that way it can deal with a lot of damage. And what is another thing that I was going to say? And since we have 4 Mercury Genie, or 4 Mercury Gene on Mia, then we can finally show the strongest Mercury summon in the game. And another thing that I want to mention too about this boss is that it can attack twice per turn, so that's something you're going to have to watch out for when fighting against Manticore. But don't worry, if you can manage to put it to sleep or wrap it in delusion, then you should be able to do yourself fine against this boss, for the most part. Okay, so let's get crazy and do some damage to it. And we use Breeze, and you know, I never really understood if Breeze actually worked that well, or if a character's resistance actually works really well against the Synergy magic, because it doesn't seem like it does a whole lot. It seems like it's about the same in terms of attack power as, you know, physical strength. So it's kind of hard to tell whether or not if it's working, but for the most part, I would say that it is, because, you know, it won't completely kill you, or any of the spells that the enemies do to you won't completely kill you right away. So yeah, I guess there is some protection, but you know, I guess you all know where I'm coming from. Oh god, it used Delusion on us, and as well as affect Aizen with a deadly poison, or infects Isaac with a deadly poison. So that means he has Venom attached to him, where he could actually lose more hit points than the traditional poison. But don't worry, you can use the Cure Poison spell or an antidote if you want to cure Venom. So it's technically the same thing, but Venom is actually more deadlier than poison. I just thought I'd let you guys know that. Okay, let's go ahead and use Procne or Procne. And yeah, I did miss the Jupiter Genies. Like I said, I missed the Jupiter Genie, but we will go back for it after we complete this boss. I'll show you where it is once we complete it, because we won't be spending much more time with this episode after we finish this up. Garrett used Tiamat, so it's not really that much effective, since Manticore does have a pretty strong defense against fire, since it is a fire type mostly. Let's go ahead and use Cure and just use our regular abilities for Isaac, Garrett, and Ivan, and then we will have Mia use her summon, which is Boreas. Boreas is the strongest Mercury-type summon in the game. And we did end up using Neptune not too long ago, I think a couple episodes ago when we fought against the Hydro statue. That was the 3rd level of the Mercury-based summons. This is the 4th level. Basically, it looks like an ice shaver machine just shooting a bunch of ice at the enemies. So yeah, and take a look at the damage count. I mean, it did a lot of damage on Manticore right there. So we pretty much won that battle, and we got ourselves a Psy Crystal for the win. Or, you know, for that win. I'm not like FTW or whatever, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, I'll be right back until we find the Jupiter Genie. Okay, here we can find the Jupiter Genie right here. And we have Jupiter Genie number 4, which is known as Smog. And with this is actually the 14th gene in the entire game. So we're already halfway through with all the gene that we collected so far. So yeah, I feel really proud of that. So just 14 more, and then we'll have a complete collection for this game. Okay, and then I'll meet you guys back at the exit of this place. Okay, here we are. And if we go back to where Manticore was, then we can actually go in here. And yes, we did burn ourselves, but it's okay. Alright, gamers, since we have made it to the exit, and we are going to exit the Lamakan Desert, I think this is a good spot to where we can go ahead and we can wrap up things right here. So next time on RPG Let's Play with Golden Sun on the Game Boy Advance, we're going to resume where we left off, and we are going to go to the town of Calais to meet up with the leaders right there and let them know about Master Hammet's supposed capture over at Loompa, and we'll see if there's anything we can do, but I doubt there is anything that we can do once we get there. But we will get a couple more Gene in the next episode, so that's something to look forward to. Whether if this episode airs either today or tomorrow, it doesn't. I'm not really that sure. If it does air tomorrow, then I will at least make another episode on the weekend. So yeah, that's gonna put a huge damper on my part with trying to get, Kirby up this weekend. The last 2 episodes of Nightmare in Dreamland, or whatever. Okay, gamers, enough of my talking. If you have not done so already, be sure to follow me on Facebook and Twitter with the links in the description, and be sure to check out my Facebook fan page as well. And if you like what you saw, then be sure to rate this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave comments below to let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Anyway, gamers, take care of yourselves, and I shall see you on the next episode. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys then.